Before you depart, I do want to point out that we have Deb's circle of concern and circle of influence on the screen behind us. We're going to have that up for each of our colleagues that join us up here. And if you are not jotting some notes on your form, you probably want to take a moment and do that. But you'll find if you look at all of these, the concerns that each and every one of your colleagues has are exactly the kinds of concerns that I'm sure many of you have. And it's amazing to me that the concerns are not universally the same, but boy, they sure are similar. Deb, I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. We'll see you a little bit later. Thank you very much. Wow. You know, it's funny, my takeaway as I was sitting there listening to Deb is that engaged leadership drives results. Isn't that an amazing thing? When we as leaders are engaged with our people, engaged with our clients, engaged with our caregivers, we get better outcomes. That's powerful. So I'd like to introduce Jack and Jacqueline St. Clair, and let's give those folks a round of applause. We want to have them come on up and join us. Hey, how you doing? Grab a seat. Good to see you. All right. Well, welcome. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, thank you.
Oh,
ready for this.
Ready for this? Yeah. All right. Huh. Now I'm worried. You'll see up above us the circle of concern, circle of influence for the St. Clairs, and thought maybe we could start by asking you to tell us a little bit about the business.
Sure. Well, our business is located in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. We cover 2 counties, but specifically we have about 250 caregivers who serve 250 clients, and they're supported by 17 administrative staff. And within that administrative staff, we have a core leadership team that includes Jacqueline and myself, our Director of Operations, and 2 other members of management. And our job as those leaders are to basically just feed down what we need to the rest of the staff so that they can continue to support our caregivers in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add to that?
We serve 2.5 counties. We have about 40,000 seniors in the area. We are a suburb of Washington, D.C., and so we're about 30 miles out of the city. So it's kind of the area that we serve.
And you might take a moment and briefly share with our colleagues what the local market area looks like, because it is really unique. I do have to share with everyone, I had a chance to visit with them over lunch yesterday, and take a moment and share your drive time, because I think it best illustrates some of the challenge in trying to take care of clients and deal with caregivers, and your commute is just breathtaking.
Sure. So, we do live in an area of country that's very competitive. There's a lot of people that commute into Washington, D.C., and I just recently purchased a second franchise, and my commute to that franchise, if I leave by 5:30 a.m., it will only take me 30 minutes. But if I leave a minute after 5:30, my commute turns into an hour and 15 minutes. And so one thing that's unique about that area is that many of the sons and daughters of the clients that we serve, they're leaving at 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning to start their commute. And because of that, we have very early start times with some of our shifts. We have a shift that starts at 3:30 Monday through Friday. And so that can pose unique challenges for us. If that caregiver gets the flu and calls out, they may be calling out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we have to get it covered in 2.5 hours for 3:30 a.m. So.
And I have to say, because we have clients and I do a lot of travel in that area, the afternoon commute is just as breathtaking.
Yes.
So imagine this dynamic in your local businesses. Can you tell us why you think your franchise is succeeding?
Sure. I think one thing that really I feel helps us succeed is that we truly believe that we're the best. We believe that we have the best caregivers providing the best care, supported by the best office staff. And I believe that when you truly believe that, that you're going to walk with confidence in any situation. So that means that if you're going out and signing up that client, they're going to see that you're something special and that they're going to connect with you and they're going to sign up for your services. And the same thing with our caregivers. We believe that we're the best employer for caregivers in Northern Virginia. And so when they come into that office and they experience what we offer them, which nowhere else does, we believe that they're going to want to be a caregiver. So I think that's a big part of it. And also, you know, I mean, I can hit on a couple other things. We have very client-friendly approach that, you know, if you'd like for me to hit on, also I can talk about. And we have a good caregiver experience as well. So
Terrific. What do you think, if you look at your business, it is that each of you does really well within that environment? Because, you know, I understood from our conversation what kind of percentage result improvements you've had in the recent past, and those numbers are pretty stunning. What is it that you think really makes your business work? What do you do really, really well?
We think our quality of care, again, just going back to what Jack said, you know, the community will know if what, you know, you're saying you're going to do is really going to happen. You know, a bad reputation travels really quickly. So, you know, when you deliver those services that you promise, you know, the good word of mouth goes around, and it's, you know, the best thing that you can possibly get. So quality of care, and also bringing on office staff that carry the same passion and compassion and, you know, really want to carry out the same mission and goals that we do, because we certainly can't serve all 250 seniors. And so they certainly carry that same torch that we carry, and they go out and make it happen too. And they pour into our caregivers and to our clients, you know, day and night to make sure that everybody's taken care of. The other thing that we really focus on is communication, trying to work smarter, not harder. So, you know, texting, emailing. There's something that we discovered called Call 'em All, and, you know, just trying to make, you know, the knowledge available. If there's an available shift, or, you know, if there's an upcoming appreciation event that we want them to come to, you know, just blasting those things so you're not taking, you know, your internal staff's time, you know, going down the whole roster. Sometimes that is necessary. But
And for people who don't know, would you explain what Call 'em All is?
Sure. The website is www.call-em-all.com, and it's a website where you can input all your caregivers' phone numbers, and you can do a pre-recorded message, and within 60 seconds, every single caregiver's phone number is ringing, and they are hearing that pre-recorded message. So an example of a reason that you would use it would be, let's say a son is calling, and he says, I've got to go out of town at the very last minute. I need someone to come over within the next hour or two to make mom dinner. So in that case, it's not so much about having the best caregiver as it is to make sure that somebody gets there to do it. And it's in an hour. And so you can record a message, say, hello, caregivers. We have a client in Manassas. The shift is in 1 hour. We need someone for just an hour to make this lady dinner. And within 60 seconds, everyone's phone's ringing with the office phone number, so they see who's calling.
Right.
They answer it. They hear the message. Or if it gets their voicemail, it leaves them a message with the information. And then, hopefully, people start calling back. And the same thing with, you know, promoting our caregiver meetings or caregiver appreciation nights or holiday parties. We can push out that information faster. And if I can hit on something that
Absolutely.
she was talking about earlier with office staff and everyone just doing an awesome job. Like I said earlier, we recently took over a neighboring franchise that we purchased last week, and I've had those franchise members at the new one meet with their counterparts in my Manassas location. And they've all come away with that everyone just seems so happy to be doing their jobs. And I joke, it's almost like they're all on drugs. They just,
it's like the home office staff.
Yeah, you walk in and they're happy. And even though the workload it's a lot. And, you know, we are signing up clients at 9 o'clock at night and at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everyone's still happy. And I think that it showed my new staff that you can be a large franchise and you can be, you know, facing lots of challenges, but there can still be a lot of fun in it because you are making a difference.
That's great. So as we get ready to wind up, best piece of advice that you would give your colleagues, your fellow franchisees?
Sure. So I actually have two. The first one would be try new things.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to fail. We have had our fair share of trying something new and innovative, and it just didn't work. And you just have to admit to that failure. I'm a firm believer that you have to fail at a handful of things to succeed in most. And we definitely have learned that. And then the other thing is, if you truly believe that you are the best and that you provide the best care and you have the best caregivers and you have the best office staff, when you go into an RPN or you go in to sell to a client's daughter and maybe that you get the door shut on your face, my philosophy is if the door's shut, you go through the window and you do everything you have to do to get that relationship and show them that, yes, we are the solution to their problem.
And get
Terrific.
creative.
And I'm curious, get creative meaning in what way? What way could somebody get creative in some part of the business system or process or in a situation that helps their business?
Well, one of the things that Jack and I recently experienced over the last, 18 months was with the increased growth, there was an increase in volume of calls and needs for after hours. And so we used to have somebody that would carry the phones and, just all the logistics that go into who's going to answer the phone after 5 o'clock. And
Right.
so we came up with the idea to have the model, and we passionately implemented this model of having someone in the office physically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
So we
Big
had someone
commitment.
there. Yes. So we thought, if our clients are having shifts at all these hours, we can have somebody in the office. And so after 10 months of giving it a really strong go, it was only staffed for 3 weeks. And we were finding ourselves in lots of interviews. And we also found something that we never would have known had we not tried it, which was there was a lot of distrust that began with the nighttime staff and the daytime staff. And as much as we tried to build the team and build the trust and overcome those challenges, we just couldn't at the time. After 10 months, it just wasn't working. So we went back to our leadership team and we went back to the drawing board and we came up with a new model that we implemented about 9 months ago. And really for the last 6 to 9 months, things have been fairly stable. And so, that was something that we tried, we felt really good about, and had to rework it a little bit and change.
And so you went from trying to have people there 7 by 24 to a new model. What is the new model?
So the new model is we're open 7 days a week from 6 in the morning to 11 at night.
Okay.
We have 2 full-time staffers, one that works Tuesday through Saturday, another that works Sunday through Thursday. So even though they're there during the week, they also have a day on the weekend.
Right.
And then they each have an assistant who arrives at 6 in the morning or stays till 11 o'clock at night. So we're always staffed during those hours. And so that's, again, a good example of something we tried, it failed, and we got back up again and did something that worked.
Yeah,
And
you
then-
took that learning and you were able to synthesize it into a better solution. And that kind of goes back to that discussion of incremental gains. Incremental gains.
Yes.
That's awesome. Unbelievable. Anything else you'd like this community to know?
Yeah, I would say just, rely on your fellow business owners, rely on the home office staff. I am forever grateful for our business management team, such as Brian and Cindy and everybody else that's always influential, and they're there when I need them. And just, don't give up and know that it's hard, but you just keep working hard at it, and it's going to eventually get better, and you're going to pull through.
Yeah, I think the message about fear this morning was so timely, because I think there are many times that Jack and I have talked over the, dining room table, wherever, and, fear could easily paralyze you. And so we found that, just take a deep breath. And again, if you had all the resources and all the time in the world, what would you do?
Right.
Then scale it back a bit and see what can you really implement in your business. And so that's what we would, move forward, onward and upward.
Terrific. Terrific. Well, I want to say thank you for spending a little bit of time up here with us, and we're going to bring you back towards the end of the
Great.
session, but thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right. Wow. I want to bring up Scott Radcliffe, and you'll see Scott here in a moment with his lovely bride, who is not able to join us today. Scott,
Hi.
thanks for coming on up.
Thank you.
Grab a seat. Apparently you have a fan. Did I hear a whistle?
One.
There you go.
Yeah,
Two, 3.
My whole family's here.
All right. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Oh, good. You're operating, and I'm going to go a little off script here. You're operating in one of the most magnificent markets in the country. Mistake on the lake, right? Is that what I hear?
That's
Cleveland, Greater Cleveland, Ohio. But we're delighted that you're here. Maybe as a starting place, take a few minutes and share with the audience a little bit about your business.
About our business. I started into the business in 2001, was hired as a general manager for the office. My mother-in-law actually started the franchise. Her name is Betty Bowers, which a lot of people know. So we came into the business in 2001. In 2003, my wife and I bought the business.
Right.
So I worked with my wife and mother-in-law all at the same time.
And do you have like a medal, a sash, a plaque? Is there an award for that? I'm just curious.
No, I'm very happy to say I'm very happily married, and it was very easy with 2 wonderful women to work with, so that was very, very helpful. So we started the business in 2003, had a lot of issues that we were trying to look at, and hey, how can we do these things better? Try to always be a work in progress and identify those areas that need improvement. So we constantly do that in our business now, and we currently have about 280 clients and about 340 caregivers, 20 admin staff, and 2 separate offices now that we're currently running. So,
and I'm curious, just because I know this geography a little bit, I would think a little bit like the St. Clairs we're talking about in their area, there's some specific challenges. Of course, the economy where you are is very, very tough.
Right.
But I would think that the geography you're covering, and particularly all that help you're going to get from the weather from the fall through the spring, has got to make your business at times a bit of a challenge.
Right. This past winter was probably the most brutal winter we've had since I've been there. I've lived there since 2001. And it was a very big challenge as far as making sure the caregivers got to where they were going, making sure their cars would start, because we had several days the temperatures were negative degrees, and that was the big challenge, is making sure we got to where we were supposed to be. We had a staff that pitched in. Everybody was willing to help people get there and go pick them up if need be, those type of things. But the weather, like I said, is one drawback. But we try to focus on the positive things of the market.
Sure.
I mean, the eastern part of Cleveland, we have no clients there. It's a lot of seniors, but mostly low-income seniors that can't afford our services.
Right.
But we have a lot of nice outlying suburbs with some old money that do are bread and butter for our business.
Sure.
And where we do provide care. So, and we have 2 large hospitals in our territory that have been very helpful for us, getting referrals from them, and we really focus on getting our foot in the door in those businesses. So.
And in that particular context, you're marketing your services to them and looking for them to become great referral partners.
Right.
Okay. Terrific.
That's easier said than done.
Yes, I'm aware of that. They call that sales, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Hospitals have some pretty hard thresholds you have to get over now to get into the hospital. So we try to think of different ways that we can gain entrance to the hospital and work with them through the back door. Whether it be a client that's at a hospital, we visit them, or try to do educational programs for the hospital, social workers or RNs, wherever that might look like. So.
Terrific. And for those that might not know, the local market from a recruiting of caregiver standpoint, and more importantly, from an economic standpoint, looks like what?
Well, the recruiting of the caregivers, we do pretty well in that area. I mean, we try to really focus on always recruiting, always hiring, because you always have a turnover issue with your caregivers. But we paid a lot of attention to that turnover of our caregivers and making sure we're doing all the extra things that keep them longer with us. We started a 2-day training program before they even start working. So we're paying them probably 15, 16 hours of orientation before they even see their first client. And so when I was thinking about doing that, I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to pay 15, 16 hours. They haven't even worked with a client yet. Is that a good decision? And somebody was like, well, what if you don't train them and then they stay with you, as an employee?
Right.
My worry is if we train them, pay them all that money, and then they leave.
Right.
But the worst case scenario is if you don't train them and then they stay with you for 2 or 3 years, then that wasn't a attractive option for us. So we always have that challenge of finding the good caregivers, and we really, really do pay a lot of attention in trying to make sure that happens. So.
Can you tell us why you think your business is succeeding? Tough market, tough place.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and what I did when I was preparing for these questions, I went to my staff and said, hey, what do you think? Why do you think we had a great year last year? Why do you think we were successful? And I would highly recommend this because a lot of the stuff that came back to me, I'm thinking, wow, I didn't think that, or I didn't think that was the main reason. But I think the one common comment is that we really identify these unique needs of our clients coming through the door, and then we do everything possible to make sure we're satisfying those needs.
Right.
The staff we have an incredible staff where they have an attitude of failure is not an option. They make sure they focus on those clients and making sure that that's not an issue of not being able to meet what they need from us. So
yeah, it's interesting, and I've heard this from certainly Deb in the St. Clairs, and I'm sure the audience did too. When you engage the staff in a vision of where you need to go, they're happy to participate.
Right.
And as a leader, sometimes hard to see everything, but they'll bring you thoughts and ideas and things that are of value. So it's a great takeaway.
Well, one of the things you said yesterday at lunch was very impactful for me is like, you know, as a leader, you don't have to know all the answers. You just have to know what kind of questions to ask.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, there's so much value to that statement and being a leader versus trying to say, I have all the answers, I know everything we should do, and I have great people around me. So to tap into that is one of the key issues I try to focus on and need to do a better job in doing that. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. What's one thing you think you do really well inside of your business?
You know, I think the one thing we really do well is we try to look at how can we wow these clients in that first 30 days. When we get that client in the door, we try to say, okay, these are the things we need to be focusing on. These are the things we need to be doing. So at the end of that 30 days, we want that client to say, wow, they did everything they said they would do, or the son and daughter to say, wow, they really exceeded our expectations. So we have a lot of steps in place that we put in place because we realize, and everybody knows this, that a lot of the issues that happen in a service failure happen in that first 30 days.
Right.
So we try to say, okay, the communication's really there. We have a very stringent client care visitation schedule we follow. It doesn't deviate from that. And then, you know, if a client's getting us so many hours a day, we're there every week or whatever that might look like. But that makes a huge difference on and being successful and keeping the clients longer.
That's great sharing. Best piece of advice that you'd have for your colleagues here, if they were to pull you aside tonight and say, Scott, you've been at this for a while, you've clearly been pretty successful, you know, what could you tell me, the one thing I could take back that would really help me have a good impact on Monday?
I got a couple things.
Okay.
One thing is to make sure you get your staff members engaged in your goal setting. Hey, what kind of goal do we want to set? In 2013, we met at the beginning of the year and said, this is our goal for 2013, what we want to hit. And the benefits of working with a wife that has a very extensive sales background, a very extensive marketing experience, she was very good at kicking me in the rear and say, let's do this, we can do this. Because I was thinking, oh, we're not going to hit that this year. And we set it out there, told everybody what it was, put some incentive behind it, and in October, we hit it.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah. So it was
and obviously you had just a phenomenal year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good. Second piece of advice, and this kind of happened by accident. A couple months ago, we have a client that we've had for 2 years, probably one of our top 5 most difficult clients, and it's a 24/7 client. So over those 2 years, I've been out there a couple of times, visited with them, heard a lot of the issues that we've had with this client, providing care, difficulty, and things like that. Make a long story short, we had an overnight shift. We couldn't get the caregiver to stay. A problem, we couldn't find anybody. It was 12:30 at night. So I ended up going as a caregiver. And I haven't done this for probably 5 or 6 years or so since I've done that.
Right.
And spent the night with a husband and wife, and it was such an eye-opener for me as saying, wow, our caregivers have such a hard job, and I don't think recognize it like we should. And what I went through that night was just amazing. I mean, I would recommend you do it. I would recommend you do like a noon to 4 shift and not an overnight. I mean, I was falling off the chair trying to stay awake the whole time, but it was very, like I said, it was like the Ritz-Carlton example yesterday of the president cleaning the toilets. Yeah. I mean, you know, it was just so helpful, and I was able to get up in front of the caregivers and say, look, I went through this the other night. I know what you guys are going through, and it just was a real eye-opener for me, so.
That's terrific.
So-
And really what you're talking about is an experience creating empathy, and
Right.
empathy creating understanding as a way to better understand the challenges of those folks that get up every day and do it for you.
You're right.
That's awesome.
Right.
So anything else you'd like to share with this group?
Rely a lot on your franchise support people. They came up with a lot of recommendations for us. They came out and visited our office. It's a fresh set of eyes looking at your operations, and they had a lot of good recommendations for us. The one thing they recommended is we go from a general manager approach to more of a leadership team.
Right?
Because we got to the point where we had enough clients, caregivers to support that. So, and that's been very beneficial for us moving forward and being a lot more effective. So I would definitely rely on your franchise support manager. So
Yeah. It's interesting as we, in our own business, work with so many franchisees. I think a lot of times when you're the owner of a franchise, you feel like everything is on your shoulders and it all falls on you.
Right.
I'm reminded of the famous line from the great Bob Marley, "No man is an island, Jack." You can't do it by yourself. So
right.
that's great sharing. We appreciate it, and we'll see you back here a little bit later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.